Few maps record its name. To most, it's just another strip of sand hidden in the irregular coastline, lost between steep cliffs and dense forests that prevent access by land and sight from the sea. The trail that leads there is so steep and treacherous that adventurers get lost before they arrive. But for those who know its legends, for those who live in the small, distrustful fishing village miles away, that place is called the Beach of Bones. They say that by moonlight, the tide does not return shells or small crabs that the sea breeze usually drags. On the contrary, with each wave that hits the sand, the beach seems to reveal something that the sea jealously guards. Small bumps appear, as if something is pushing from the inside out. Soon, the sand becomes a field of human remains, bones scattered like the remnants of a secret feast. Entire skeletons emerge from nowhere, as if the earth is expelling them, only to disappear when the sun rises, as if they had never existed. Fishermen who have ventured to spend the night there swear that the wind whispers groans, as if the waves hold the last words of those who died there. Most people avoid the region, but the legend, like a dark lighthouse, attracts the curious. Caio was a photographer and adventurer. His pragmatic mind and skeptical eye led him to spend the last few months traveling inland, recording local stories for a personal project about haunted places in Brazil. He didn't believe in ghosts or curses, just in fascinating stories. And his camera was his tool to capture the essence of the legend without the need to accept superstition. It was in a small fishing village that he heard about the beach. At first, he found the story funny. Bones appearing on the sand? Probably remnants of old shipwrecks or marine animals. But something in the tone of the old man who told him the story stuck in his mind. The man, with deep, marked eyes, didn't laugh. His hands trembled as he held the glass of cachaça, and he said in a voice that sounded like a lament, "Boy, if you hear them call your name there, don't answer, never answer, because it's not the wind, it's them, and they want company." That warning, solemn and full of dread, was enough for Caio to decide that this would be the next stop on his investigation. The access was difficult. A narrow and almost invisible trail descended through stones and dry bushes. Caio squeezed through the thorns and rocks, and with each step, the wind blowing from the sea carried a strong smell of salt and something else, a slightly acidic odor, like old iron. The dense forest choked out any sound, except for the wind and the waves, which seemed to be in a constant duel. When he arrived, the sun was setting. The sea stretched out in reddish tones, and the beach seemed strangely deserted. No footprints in the sand, no trace of boats, no fisherman's bonfire. Just silence, the constant surf, and the smooth sand. Caio set up his tent near the rocks, adjusted the camera's tripod, placed an audio recorder in a discreet location, and waited. He wanted to capture the proof, the essence of the legend. When the moon rose, round and cold, he realized what the locals meant. The sand, previously smooth, began to change texture. Small bumps appeared, as if something was pushing from the inside out. Caio approached with his flashlight. In the focus of the light, a white gleam. He knelt down and pushed the sand away with his hands, revealing a human skull. The shock made him recoil, but his rational mind sought an explanation. Perhaps it was the remains of drowning victims that the sea brought and buried. Still, the discomfort was immediate. He took a photo. The flash lit up the skull for a second, and when he lowered the camera, he noticed something worse. The skull was no longer alone. Around it, dozens of fragments began to emerge.
Jawbones, ribs, long bones, all mixing with the shells. The wind blew harder, and in the sound of the tide, Caio heard what seemed to be a whisper. His name. Caio. He froze. The voice was soft, but clear. It echoed among the waves, as if the water itself were speaking. "It must be the wind," he mumbled, trying to convince himself, but his heart was pounding. But the whispers increased. Now it wasn't just a name, they were calls. Confused voices like a submerged choir, each one begging, moaning, asking for help. The sound seemed to come from dozens of throats at the same time. It was a lament of souls in agony. Kaio backed away, stumbling in the sand. The camera, forgotten, continued to record what was happening on video. Then he saw slender figures emerged from the foam of the surf. Human silhouettes, with whitish, almost translucent skin, hair stuck to their faces, moving slowly in his direction. They didn't look like floating bodies. They were like souls that had been materialized by the moon and by fear. The survival instinct spoke louder. He ran to the tent, locked himself inside, even though he knew it was useless. The zipper was a fragile barrier against whatever was outside. The voices did not cease. They surrounded his mind all night, until sleep, forced by exhaustion, took him down. The next morning, nothing. The beach seemed normal. No bones, no figures, no trace. Just the smooth sand and the calm sea. Kaio's rational mind tried again to come up with an explanation, but the audio recorder had captured the whispers. The camcorder blurred images of the silhouettes. Kaio returned to the village determined to seek answers. The old fisherman, seeing him return, lowered his eyes with a look of sorrow. "I warned you," he said with regret. When pressed, he told the story that circulated among the oldest residents. More than a century ago, a slave ship, the León de Abrolhos, sank there during a storm. Hundreds of men and women in chains had drowned just a few feet from the beach without the slightest chance of escape. Their bodies were never buried with dignity, and the beach became the tomb of their souls in agony. With each generation, the souls returned to manifest, seeking a place of rest. But the curse holds them to the beach, and they, in their fury, drag with them those who dare to profane their sand. The legend was a warning. The souls didn't want company. They wanted replacements. Kaio listened in silence. Part of him wanted to laugh, but another part clearly remembered the whisper of his name. Fear and curiosity mixed in a dangerous combination. He decided to go back. This time, Kaio brought more equipment, extra audio recorders, flashlights, batteries, and a heavy metal tripod. His intention was to spend 2 full nights, no matter what, to document everything. He wanted undeniable proof that the legend was real, a video that showed the dead. On the first night, the phenomena repeated, but in a more intense way. The bones emerged in greater numbers, the voices called out louder, and the figures at the water's edge seemed more solid and closer. The camera filmed and the recorder recorded. Kaio felt like a paranormal archaeologist. But on the second night, something changed. The atmosphere on the beach became predatory. The wind blew harder than before, knocking over one of the cameras. Kaio ran to adjust it, and as he did so, he noticed something that chilled his spine. On the camcorder screen, behind him, a figure was standing, completely dry, with eyes like black holes. He turned, but there was nothing. His heart was pounding, and cold sweat ran down his forehead. Gradually, he noticed a pattern in the whispers. They were not just voices asking for help. It was a chant, a repetitive and growing lament coming from within the waves, a chant that spoke of pain, slavery, and betrayal. The sand gave way. Kaio sank up to his knees, pulled by invisible hands. Below the surface, he felt icy fingers scratching his skin, bones trying to drag him down. He screamed, he struggled, but the sand seemed like quicksand, alive, hungry.
In the last instant, with superhuman effort, he managed to break free, running toward the rocks. Behind him, dozens of silhouettes rose, semi-skeletal bodies that walked out of the water, as if the sand and the sea had given them a new life. Their eyes were just dark holes, but all fixed on him, hungry and vengeful. He managed to reach the trail and climbed up without looking back. Kaio survived. He returned to the city, leaving his equipment behind as if they were the cause of his curse. He never spoke publicly about what happened. The video recorded by his camera, however, remained. A grainy footage where you can clearly see a bony hand coming out of the sand and grabbing his ankle, and Kaio's voice screaming. The last audio recorded on the recorder is the chant of the voices, which ends with a clear, strong voice whispering a name, Kaio. The beach of bones is still there, forgotten. Some say that on full moon nights it's still possible to hear the echo of screams coming from the wind. Others claim that the bones continue to emerge, calling for new names, always waiting for one more soul to join them. And so, the beach of bones remains, an open scar between the sea and the earth, reminding us that there are places where death never rests in silence. And Kaio, the adventurer who sought proof of the legend, became a part of it. Now his name is just another echo in the voice of the wind, a new passenger for eternity.